Grove City Council meeting this evening at February the 4th, 2020. And welcome, we have all our council members here this evening, and we welcome them and our staff that has joined us, and welcome those who have joined us in our audience this evening. Thank you for coming this evening, and we would like to start off our meeting with having the Pledge of Allegiance by Sherry Portos, who is our library director, after which Councilmember Lamone will give us the opening remarks.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We thank you for the opportunity to serve and to live in this beautiful city, and we thank you for the service of those who volunteer and for those employed with the city. We bless that we can go throughout the night and remember thee in our hearts and our mind as we make decisions, and that we can do so civilly in a respectful way as we make decisions on behalf of the residents. We bless that we can move our city forward in a positive direction, and that we can be able to know what's best for our citizens this time, and be able to be good examples. We love thee and we say these things in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Sid and Sherry. I apologize. This evening, I am under the influence of drugs, the kind you have to show your driver's license to get from the pharmacy. But anyway, so I'll fight through this cold, and if I have to leave for a moment, I'm sure the good person to my right will take over here. But anyway, we'd like to ask for approval of tonight's meeting agenda. Do we have any other things that we need to ask about, Scott? Is there any changes?
No changes.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
And I second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll now move to our open session and invite anybody who would like to come forward and address the council. We'll allot you 3 minutes to bring any concerns forward. So if you'd please come forward now, we'd appreciate that.
Go ahead and push the green button right there on the microphone,
This one.
and then just say your name too.
Okay, I'm Michelle Templeman, and I live on Murdoch Drive. And thank you for allowing me to come and present something to you tonight. I do appreciate all the work that you all do, and we have a little problem. If I could ask you if you could come to the board, because I think if you saw the picture, you would understand a lot better what our problem is rather than me talking about it. Do you mind? I've already started drawing on the board.
I'm all in.
Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of other people who are very pleased with it because they take it as a speedway, especially the teenagers who go to school. Now, the problem is that it's here, and there's folks here saying that maybe it'll prevent you from seeing anything. That doesn't stop the teenagers from driving fast or other people with activity. So they come over the hill, and here we have driveways, and for slip and slide, and for basketball. The kids come walking from here, this road, across the street, right there at the bottom of the hill, to go to the pit. All kinds of ages from maybe 5 to 14, 15. The cars coming here, some of them go 50, 60 miles an hour coming down here. If they come here, they just have absolutely no time to stop or to see anything. And same thing here. We came here last year in December, and the police chief said that they were going to post some cars, some police cars. Congratulations, they must be really well undercover because we haven't seen any. And none of my neighbors have seen any police cars on our road. Maybe they're there when everybody's asleep, I don't know, but we are always worried about speeders on that road. Now, you all said that snowplow drivers cannot take care of speed bumps because I don't know if they like the machine or if they like the speed bumps or what the problem is, but I've driven Linden, American Fork, Highland, everywhere, everybody has speed bumps, and nobody seems to be worried about their snowplow drivers. So,
Thank you.
so, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming to the board.
I would just like to respond to you. We will not do any speed bumps, so we do not do those in Pleasant Grove. And a lot of cities that have them wish they didn't have them. And we have some that we wish we didn't have. So speed bumps aren't an option. We'll continue working our enforcement up there in that neighborhood. And so that's all we can do for right now. And the enforcement has been there. So that's where we'll leave that. So please come forward and thank you.
Thanks. I'm Christy Belt. I have mixed feelings about the whole dispatch thing. We worked really hard to get a nice area that was needed, but it's hard to argue with the numbers. I do hope, though, because we have so many dispatchers leaving because of money, and police officers and firefighters, and I'm sure other city workers, I would hope that that money that we're saving could be put towards raising the pay of our public safety workers and not be spent on other things in the general fund or in roads. And that would just be my request. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Christy.
Anyone else that'd like to come forward and address the council?
Mayor Fugel, councilman and staff. My name is Dave Told, and this is a partner of mine, Jim Brisk. We ran into, I got a project we're working on, and we ran into a little problem. We just wanted to bring it to your attention. JD has some things he'll hand out. We purchased a piece of property over on Turley Avenue that's zoned for multifamily type thing. We wanted to put a little 15-plex in there and kind of clean up the property. As you see the pictures, you'll see what it was and what our rendering's going to be. And we think it'll be a good use for the property. We just ran into a problem that now that we're just bringing it to city council's attention that will have to be fixed in the future. I'll let JD talk about that. I think our next option is to go to the hearing officer on our particular project, but I'll let JD.
All right, thanks for allowing me to take a few moments. I just wanted to bring to your attention an issue that we ran into in the city code where a conflict between the zoning ordinance and the general plan. Much of the information there is just for your use later. I'm not really going to get too specific about the incident that we got caught in, but there's a little hole between with what the zoning code allows and what the general plan does. The general plan being a guiding document says you can have 14 units per acre. we have less than an acre, so we have to use the formula to figure out how many units we have. If you do the formula, since we're just about 300 feet short of an acre, we can have 15 units. That's kind of a discrepancy. We designed our plan, our project, spent a lot of time and money to get to that point, only to find out that the formula that we've been given to work with for almost a year and a half now was incorrect, that we had implied it incorrectly. So I just want to bring that to your attention. If you could address your code where the zone is in conflict with the general plan, I think would help others besides me that got caught in it this time, will help others in the future that don't get caught in that same little hole that we did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else like to come forward?
We talked about this, and I don't know why I'm here, but I just feel like my chiefs are willing to take it on the chin, and I need to stand up and support them and my city administration and my city and my people. And he warned me, and they've seen me cry so much, and I didn't want to do this. I have appreciated my job with the city, but I know I see the writing on the wall as far as the state and legislation as far as 911 is concerned right now. I have had the opportunity and privilege of working with Mike Vienendahl and Noreen Stone down at Central. I have so much respect for them. They are great people. And I just want you to know that I support them. And as hard as this is to say, I wouldn't want to turn my family, my work family, over to anybody else but them. If that needs to happen and you choose to do that, then I have your back, and I support you guys with that, as I do my chiefs. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Heidi.
Heidi.
Heidi, we appreciate your leadership that you showed in the constituency. Anyone else like to come forward? If not, we will now close our open session, and we'll move on to item number 6, our consent items for this evening, which is A and B, and I would ask for a motion on our consent items.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent items.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll now move on to item number 7, Board, Commission, and Committee appointments, and we'd like to go to 7A, consider for adoption Resolution 2020-06, appointing John Goodman, Street Superintendent, to the Timpanogos Special Service District Board and the North Point Solid Waste Special District Board for a 4-year term to each board, and providing for an effective date.
I'd like to hear from John. I'd like to hear from him.
Let me just say a few things. Lynn Walker, former council member, was serving in the capacity on both these boards. We do have representation. These are both pretty big boards, and Timpanogos Sewer District is for the treatment of our sewer, and North Point is for the transfer station where our curbside garbage goes to before it's sent to the landfill. So as we've been looking for a replacement for Lynn, John has expressed an interest. Sometimes these are not the most desirable positions, so we're glad that John is interested in doing this. What action you would take today is essentially this is the city's recommendation, but he does, I think, have to be taken care of on the county level, and we're just saying this is who we would like for you to put on that board, so that's what we're doing.
John, would you like to add anything to that? Okay,
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mayor, I'll make a motion.
okay.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-06, appointing John Goodman, Street Superintendent, to the Timpanogos Special Service District Board, as well as the North Point Solid Waste Special Services District Board for a 4-year term to each board, and providing for an effective date.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Anderson. And this will be a roll call vote. And we'll start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. The voting is unanimous, and we're now, John, you can go to the basketball game now. So anyway, so,
And save seats.
and save seats, yeah.
Just one thing, I would love, like even maybe twice a year, quarterly, that we actually get an update on, and maybe it's annually, I don't know how often, but sometimes we have these boards that are external, and sometimes we don't hear from them. I know
would
that
be
there
great,
was
Diane.
some budget things that were happening with TSSD, and I would love to be kept up on what's happening.
Yeah, we can set a regular time for John to come and report.
I'm one step ahead of you. I already talked to John about that.
Dang it.
At Taco Amigo today. Didn't we
in
talk about
front.
that, John?
Dang it.
Okay.
I like winning.
Okay. We'll now go now to our item number 8, presentations. And we don't have any presentations this evening, but I would just like to take a few moments and recognize a few things, and especially one person in particular here tonight. We had the passing of Bill Hoagland. And a couple of weeks ago, his funeral was Saturday. I didn't know. You didn't know? But, so, I've been around a little bit, and I'm sure the man to my left here has too, and Bill's been a real centerpiece, and I will call Bill Hoagland Mr. Parks and Recreation of Pleasant Grove.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, if it wasn't for Bill and his family, our recreation program wouldn't be where it is today. And he was, you know, he had his job down in Geneva, but then he started in things, and he was behind all of our parks that we've had. I mean, and both the swimming pool #1 and #2, keeping #1 going when it probably shouldn't have been going, but he made it work. And he was, the Battle Creek Park, when we decided we were going to do the Battle Creek Park, I think we had some grant money, but we also needed to bond. And it didn't become aware to me until I met with his children at the viewing the other night that one of their responsibilities on that bond was that they got the Pleasant Grove phone book and they started from A and went to Z and called everybody, that was the phone tree, to vote for the bond. And that bond did pass. And we built the Battle Creek Park, and it's changed a lot up there. So it's not what the Battle Creek Park was there, but it all worked out. And, you know, he was Shannon Field. I can tell you, he was the one behind down there at that ballpark. I still remember, and Brent, did you play football?
Yes.
So you played at Shannon Field, right?
Did.
Used to be the high school football field down there. And he's took care of that and turned into ball fields. I can remember how he was the one behind the Little League and keeping the fields going. And even Dion was here. Dion can voice that he worked under when he was a young man and with a push mower cutting grass before we had a riding mower. And Bill was the one who really pushed the city council in finding the funds to buy our first riding lawnmower. So I'd just like to thank Bill this evening and his family for everything they've done and the many years of service he gave to our community. And I'd like to give him a hand of applause. Also, one other, it is this next week, on February the 12th is the Day of Hope, and for a high school, and would like to encourage all of you to be part of that. And we didn't get a proclamation done, but we would like to make that, and also that they are going to be hard attacking our city buildings here, and so you'll have to see what that's all about on the 12th. So that'll be fun to watch. So anyway, so we wish them well, and we're grateful for the Hope Squad up at the high school there. So we'll now move on to item number 9, our public hearing this evening. It's a public hearing to consider for adoption ordinances 2020-3 to apply the R1-12 single-family residential zone to approximately 2.67 acres on property located at 200 North, 950 East. And we'll turn it over to Director Cardenas.
Mayor, Council, this item is the proposal to do a rezone, as the mayor mentioned it. What the applicant is proposing is to go from an R120 to an R112. R120, it's the nomenclature. I learned a new word for residential, single family, in at least 20,000 square feet. And what the applicant is proposing is to reduce that square footage required per lot from 20,000 to 12,000 square feet. The area is what we can see right there. There's an aerial view of the property.
Do you have a pointer, Daniel?
A pointer?
Yeah, if you need
Okay. Will it be better if I use the mouse or the pointer? Use the mouse, okay. So, it's the area right here. So this is 2.68 acres. And again, the proposal is to go from an R120 to an R112. If we take a look at this zoning map, it looks kind of like this, okay? So this area, it's an interesting area of the city because we have multiple different zones in that neighborhood. I think is that the Monkey Town? It is the Monkey Town neighborhood, right?
I can't remember.
That's where the mayor grew up. But as you can see, you have an R110, we have R120, R112, R19, and all those are right there next to each other. Now, something interesting to mention about this is that in the recent 2 years, this area right here of about 5 acres, and this area right here of about 5.3 acres. So we have 2 areas that were rezoned from R120 to an R112. And as we can see right now, there are actually some subdivisions right there. They're already platted. If we go back to the aerial view, we can see again that this area right here is the one that got rezoned recently, about 5 acres, and this area as well, 5.3 acres. And the area that we're talking about today of about 2.67, 2.68 was left out right there in the middle. So the proposal is to rezone that. That was kind of like a spot, an area that was left out, and now they're ready to develop. In reality, I think the development will occur on the south portion of it, but this is something that we don't want to do anymore, like leave those islands like that. So that's why it was a proposal to rezone the entire part. At this time, we're not talking about a subdivision. The proposal is to go from R120 to an R112. In 2 seconds, I would like to go over this. This is very important to mention. This is what our general plan says. Our general plan calls all this green area low-density residential, which supports R112. So R112 is a zone that is part of the low-density residential. It's R112 and R120. Both of them are supported by that. Okay. So this item went to the Planning Commission. It received a unanimous recommendation of approval. Again, the proposal is backed up by our general plan. Okay, that's what I have, Mayor and Council.
Thanks, Daniel.
My pleasure.
Any other questions for Daniel? If not, I would like to open up our public hearing and ask anybody who would like to come forward and address the council on this zone change. Okay, I do not see anybody, so I will bring it back up here to the council, close our public hearing, and any other questions from the council at this time?
Nope.
Not, then I would ask for a motion on ordinance number 2020-3.
Mayor, I make a motion for adoption of ordinance 2020-3 to apply the R112 single-family residential zone to approximately 2.67 acres on property located at 200 North, 950 East.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Bullock. This will be a roll call vote again, and we'll go the other direction. We'll start out with Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. It passes unanimously, and we will now go on to our action items for this evening. 10A, to consider for adoption Resolution 2020-07, authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than $10,300,000 aggregate principal amount of stormwater revenue refunding bonds, Series 2020, related matters, and providing for effective date. We'll now turn it over to our city administrator.
Yeah, we borrowed some money a few years back for stormwater purposes, and the interest rate we borrowed the money under is more than what the interest rates are today. So through a refinance, we can save ourselves some money. And I will turn the details over to Jonathan Ward with Zions Bank. He's our financial advisor on this, and he can talk through the details of how much money we would save by doing this.
We're always happy to see you.
Thank you. It's nice to see each of you. Familiar faces, one new face. Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
As Scott indicated, my name's Jonathan Ward. I'm with Zions Public Finance. Rates are low. The outstanding average interest rates on the two series of bonds that we're trying to refinance is around 4.3 on one series and 3.5 on another. Wow. We're looking at interest rates today for almost 20-year tax-exempt financing at around 2.5%. So it's extremely low. We're running analysis in our current interest rate environment showing that the city could save around $1.2 million. That's around $70,000 per year for the next 19 years that the bonds are outstanding. So we're crossing our fingers that the rates will remain low. We are basically every week, it seems, hitting new lows over the last 30 or so years that we've been tracking these records according to the Bond Buyer Index. So we think that's a good sign that we're in a good time to borrow or refinance bonds outstanding. The resolution before you this evening authorizes us to take next steps. We would publish a notice in the newspaper declaring our intent to issue bonds for the purpose of refinancing existing bonds. We would also work with staff to obtain a bond rating, actually probably 2 ratings that we'll need to do in order to help sell these bonds, and possibly bond insurance as well. We have a split rating, meaning one rating agency rates us at one level and another rating agency rates us at another level. The bond insurance blends that all together and actually raises the rating a half a notch above the highest existing bond rating that we have on these storm drain revenue bonds. So there's a process, and this is the first step in it, but over the course of the next couple of months, we would anticipate being able to whittle away at the items that are on that list and come back and save the city some money.
Any other questions?
I know. I do, and I have a couple of questions. So understanding that we're going to save that much money, we're also then now going to make the bonds, we're extending the life of those?
No.
No, we're not.
So they were.
The term date is the same.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. This is why Jonathan's here. He's the miracle worker.
Jonathan.
Well,
But
it's not all my doing, but I'm happy to take credit for whatever you
Well,
give me.
look at the economy that we get an interest rate like that.
So
saving us.
that $70,000 just goes back into the storm drain fund for storm drain projects, so.
Yes.
Yeah, Marty's already got plans for that money.
Well, we better pass it then.
So.
Great.
Anything?
I have no questions and/or qualms.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, then I would ask for a motion on 10A.
I would love to make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-07, authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than 10,300,000, and of course, I don't have my glasses,
300,000.
300,000 aggregate principal amount of stormwater revenue refunding bonds, Series 2020, and related matters, and providing for an effective date.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Anderson, a second by Councilmember Lamone. It's a roll call vote. We'll start with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Appreciate that it passes unanimously, and whenever we can save
That's amazing.
money and put it to work somewhere else, we'll do that.
I do have a question. So I remember a long time ago, it took us a trip to San Francisco to get a new bond rating. That will still continue to happen?
Yeah.
You guys will go?
Me and Denise and the mayor are going in early March.
Okay.
So we'll get the rating. The rating then helps determine what our interest rate's gonna be.
And then he runs with the rating?
And then, well, they take the rating, and then they can sell the bonds.
Okay.
And so that's why Jonathan's saying rates are low right now today. That doesn't guarantee that by the time we sell them, they're still gonna be there, but we're hoping that things kind of stay right in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Anything else, Council?
No.
Okay, we'll now move on to 10B, consider for adoption ordinance 2019-15, amending the Pleasant Grove city boundaries by annexing parcels from Utah County with serial numbers 140540154 and 140540155 and 140540152, and the surrounding area along the I-15 corridor, totaling an area of 13.27 acres in the aforementioned area known as the Better Investment Annexation will receive the zoning designation of the Grove Zone, interchange subdistrict located approximately 2295 West, 700 South, Pleasant Grove. Director.
Mayor, council, pretty sure this item seems familiar to you guys. Just in July, I think July 15 of last year, so 6 months ago, we went over this item. This is for the annexation of 13.27 acres of land. We're gonna get really familiar with it. It's on 2295 West, 700 South. The owner of that property right now is Better Investment Group, Better Body Foods, okay? So the property, as the mayor was saying, is along the I-15 corridor. So this area right here, this is the freeway. To help us out a little bit, this is the BMW, to where the BMW is, and we're talking about this 13.27 acres of land. Not all of the land belongs to Better Body Foods. There's some land that was part of UDOT, right, Marty? Was it UDOT? UDOT owns some land right there. So what we're trying to do there, or what we did, because it was to annex that piece of land into the city. As how our map is right now, as we can take a look at that, actually I'm gonna go back to this map, I think we can see it better. This thick black line right here, and for the people who are watching us on, I was gonna say on TV, on YouTube, this right here, this is right now the current delineation or the city boundaries. So what we're trying is to annex that piece of land into the city. Now, this item already went to Planning Commission, it went to City Council, and it received the approval. But the law says that after it received the approval from you guys, we had 60 days to record a plat, which is right here, We had the plat. So the applicant has 60 days to go and record that plat, take it to the recorder's office, to the county, to Utah County, and record it, and we never did that. So those 60 days expire. So what we're doing right now is to reapprove this, to open up again the window and give us 60 more days to have the chance to get a Mylar. So that plat right there, as we can see, this is the piece of land that we're adding right there. So here goes with the mouse, and is the area right of where the mouse is pointing right here. So, again, what we're trying to do is reopen that window, 60 more days for us to put that into a Mylar paper, record it, and they'll be so lucky to belong to Pleasant Grove after that. Okay? So
Okay.
that's what I have, Mayor and Council.
Any more questions for Daniel?
Nope.
Mayor, I'll make a motion
Okay?
to readopt ordinance 2019-15, amending Pleasant Grove City's boundaries by annexing parcels from Utah County with serial numbers as mentioned by Mayor, and surrounding area along the I-15 corridor, totaling an area of 13.27 acres. Is that good? Okay.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember
Second.
Williams. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilmember Jensen. And this will be a roll call vote. We'll start it out with Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
and Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 10C, to consider for adoption Resolution 2020-08, indicating the intent of the City Council of Pleasant Grove to adjust common boundary with the City of Cedar Hills, authorizing a public hearing thereon, providing for notice and of said hearing, proposed area to be adjusted as owned by David and Molly Rupert, located 4354 North, 900 West, Pleasant Grove, Utah, comprising of 1 acre, known as a Rupert Boundary Adjustment, and providing for an effective date. General Counsel.
Mayor and Council, this Utah State Code provides in 102419 that municipalities who are located adjacent to each other along their common boundaries have the ability to mutually agree to adjust boundaries between them without going through the annexation and disconnection process. We have received an application from David and Molly Rubert at the address 4354 North, 900 West, compliant with the state code regarding common boundary adjustments. This is the first step, similar to the parameters resolution that you just approved for the bond. This resolution simply declares the city's intent to adjust the common boundaries with Cedar Hills. The state code requires that people have an opportunity to know that we're doing this and an opportunity also to be heard in case anybody objects to this boundary adjustment. Therefore, the state code requires us to set a hearing not less or not more than 60 days from the date of the adoption of the resolution. So currently, the public hearing is set for April 21st, 2020 to consider the proposed boundary adjustment. At that time, the city will have an ordinance actually adjusting the boundaries along with a plat that will show the new boundaries for you to sign. Any questions?
If not, thank you, Tina. And I would ask for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-08, indicating the intent of the City Council of Pleasant Grove to adjust the common boundary with the City of Cedar Hills, authorizing a public hearing whereon and providing for notice of said hearing. The proposed area to be adjusted is owned by David and Molly Rupert, located at 4354 North, 9th West, Pleasant Grove, Utah, comprising of a 1 acre known as the Rupert Boundary Adjustment.
We have a motion by Councilmember Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Williams. This will be a roll call vote. We will start off with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate the motion passes, and we know, some of us has personally visited that piece up there and know the situation. We hope this will be the most timely to meet the needs of our residents there to accomplish what they're doing.
We always hate losing people.
So, okay, we'll now move on to 10D. Consider authorizing the mayor to sign a local consent permit for Evermore Park to apply for a state liquor license for a single event, March 21, 2020, between the hours of 6 p.m. and 1 a.m. And we'll turn the time back over to you.
Mayor and council, we have received another request from Evermore Park they're planning on conducting a masquerade ball on March 21st and 22nd. They need local consent in order to serve alcohol at this function, in order to get the appropriate DABC approvals. As far as I know, we haven't had any problems with the prior special events that they've received alcohol permits for. It's going to be from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. on the 21st and 22nd of March, and they will be serving beer, heavy beer, wine, flavored malt beverages, and liquor.
Okay, is there any other questions for our general counsel? If not, I'd ask for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion authorizing you, the mayor, to sign a local consent permit for Evermore Park to apply for a state liquor license for a single event on March 21st, 2020, between the hours of 6 p.m. and 1 a.m.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bullock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hey.
That is apropos.
Chief of Police.
That is
right there,
apropos right
people.
there.
Right,
Anything your heart desires.
right after the liquor permit.
That was perfect.
Okay, we'll move on to item 10E.
Priceless.
Consider for adoption Resolution 2020-09, authorizing the mayor to declare two 2018 Tundra pickup trucks as surplus. And we'll turn it over to our Public Works Director.
Mayor, council, this is our process that we've been doing for the last 4 years or so down in Public Works. We purchased two 2018 Toyota Tundras a couple of years ago. We're now into those 2 years and we're rotating those trucks. We'll be selling the two that we have. Again, we typically get back approximately what we bought them for. So we use them for a couple of years, usually within a couple $1,000s of cost, and sell them for those costs, and then we buy two new vehicles. So it's worked out really well for us. We feel it's been a great investment for us to do it this way, and this is what these two Toyotas will do, they'll be replaced shortly, and so these two will be sold, so.
Okay.
Nice, that's nice. That's a great use of funds. Thank you, Marty. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-09, authorizing the mayor to declare two 2018 Toyota pickup trucks as surplus.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Anderson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And we'll now move on to Marty's next item, 10F, consider for awarding Pleasant Grove four-home demolition project bid to ESP Excavating Incorporated in amount of $104,599 and authorize the mayor to sign the notice to proceed and to sign the agreement upon receipt and approval of final contract documents. Director.
Mayor, council, we put out a bid a couple weeks ago for the demolition of the three homes on Locust Avenue that's been discussed about for the pickleball court park, the extension of Veterans Park, and then also for the Beck home removal. And we had 4 bidders that were at the pre-bid meeting. 2 bidders submitted bids. ESP Excavation was the low bidder in the amount of $104,599. Of that, we did put in an additive alternate bid for the removal of the 2 large trees along First East. We worked with the county and they wanted us to do that as an additive so they could make a decision if we awarded that or not. We've talked with the county and they're okay with that price of reimbursing the city for the removal of the trees. Essentially, it'll take it down to a stump. We can't pull the roots out because that'll damage the road.
Right.
And then I've got a meeting tomorrow actually that we're starting that discussion on the 100 East reconstruction there at Center Street and the widening and this other things that we've discussed on the bump that we've got there. So all of that is going to be moving forward this spring is the plan, and the full root balls and things would be removed at that time. But right now it's to take the trees down to ground level essentially with this project. So that's included in the $104,599 that we're proposing to award.
And is the county paying for the trees to be cut down?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's 104 just for the houses, and then the trees are above that, and then?
No, $99,999 was for the bid, for the price of the
Can I
house.
throw in a
removals.
dollar?
That's everything, the Locust Ave and the Beck Home was
Okay.
that, $100,000.
Got it.
$4,600 is the cost of the tree removals to get those out of there.
Question
Like a
on,
deal.
on the, when we do redo the road and you do have to take those stumps out, what is that process for that little stretch of land?
That's, we went through a whole bunch of that when we were going through whether or not we were going to do that, and the county agreed at that point that they would do the widening if we would agree that the trees could be removed.
Right.
And then we kind of went back and forth. Essentially, as I understand it, again, I've got to finalize that with the county, and that's our meeting tomorrow that we're going to start that.
Okay.
It's my understanding they're still financing the widening of the road, moving the curb, redoing that section of the road. And we've got to work a little bit on the north side with the Images Salon. And we've got to talk through that, but for the most part, they're committed to doing the project, and we're just going to work with them to try to make sure that gets done.
So that's great, Marty. So once this is done, and if this is approved, when is the timing of the, I'm concerned about houses on Locust.
Yeah.
Those are becoming, kind of an eyesore, probably a safety issue.
If I remember correctly, the contract dates say they have to be down by the end of March.
Okay.
They have a 10-day window that they have to notify the state for demolition. All of the asbestos and things has been remediated out of them. I think Dion's not here, but he was checking on the Beck Home today. I think they were supposed to respond. But the contractor is ready to move. He has about 6 weeks to get the work done.
Great.
So it should be fairly soon.
I think they were going to attack those 3 up there first,
Yeah, good.
and then do the
Take
back home.
back in the trees. That's great. Thanks for doing that. And those trees, I know, is a safety hazard for fire as well, so it's good to have those down.
So, is there any other questions for Marty?
Can I just state our intent, particularly on the back home of those 2 trees, is that it's going to be without fanfare, that we'll just set a date and they'll come and take care of that, so. just
And do
wanna
we
make sure
have
council's
Kyle
aware.
Hardy lined up to, like, we're gonna try and save the wood and reclaim that, and what are we doing? Do we have a plan for that?
We're going to have Kyle talk to the contractor and let him work it out with the contractor. So if Kyle wants the wood and wants to get all that figured out, we'll have him talk with the contractor about what that means.
Okay, but that will be discussed before they come down, so we can make sure that,
Yeah.
You can tell him now. I mean, he can go talk with Steve immediately
Yeah.
and get that coordinated, because Steve will be moving on getting everything lined up for his schedule after this award, so.
Steve,
Velon with ESP Excavation.
Good job.
That's the low bidder on the project.
That's the company
Stick it
that's
to-
going to be doing
Stick it to the man
the
with the-
demolition work.
Any other questions for Marty? If not, thank you, Marty, and I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve awarding the Pleasant Grove 4-home demolition project bid to ESP Excavation in the amount of $104,599, and authorize the mayor to sign a notice to proceed and to sign the agreement upon receipt and approval of final contract documents.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams and a second by Councilmember Bullock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. That concludes our action items for this evening. We'll now move to item number 11 and finish our discussion from our previous work session.
So we have a discussion on our ordinance that requires street improvements if certain thresholds are met within an addition or certain development within our community. So this was an issue that came up as we were dealing with the Ruberts and their situation. So it was requested that we show the council so they have an understanding what our thresholds are that trigger the need to put in improvements. The intent of the discussion today is to give you a high-level look at it, and then if you want to give us some feedback on how deep you want to go with this, we'll bring it back to you another time with some, whatever information that you would like to know. If you want us to tweak it, if you want us to do away with it, or if you're happy with what it is. So Daniel Cardenas, I believe, has a slide that will show what we had. We just did this about 3.5 years ago. We brought this through the Planning Commission and City Council. I think probably 3 of you were on the council at the time.
But how long has it been, was it on the books before that?
Yeah, so before that,
Because we revised it.
it was revised 3.5 years ago. So he has really just before and after July 2016. We don't know when the initial ones came on, but after July 2016, those are the thresholds that the council said, we're comfortable with this to trigger the street improvements. So meaning if that happens, they have to put in curb, gutter, sidewalk, whatever, maybe road improvements that come with that. I don't know, Marty or Daniel, who wants to walk us through this?
I'll start. So, as we was mentioned, in July 2016, that's when we amended the code. So let's go back to and I'm gonna do it from here, boss, or from the podium? Doesn't matter, okay. So before July 2016, okay, every time someone came to our office and they come with a renovation, for example. Actually, I'm gonna stand up. I feel better on there. Yeah. I'm fine. This is where my groove is. So before July 2016, when someone approached community development and they come out, for example, with they were gonna remodel their kitchen, and during the building permit, we'll review and we'll say, okay, give us an estimate how much it will cost. And if it will cost above $30,000, it will trigger it. And we'll say, okay, we will give you the building permit. You will remodel your kitchen, but street improvements are required. So any remodeling over $30,000, it will trigger the street improvements. Also, when they were going to do any construction or expansion of any accessory buildings, a shed, a garage, anything that they had that was greater than 500 square feet, it will also trigger it. Or any addition to the main dwelling of more than 300 square feet also will trigger it. We thought in July 2016, that's when I started working here, it was 2 months after that it was a little too, what's the word, intense? No, it was a little too, onerous, that's the word. I learned a new word today, onerous. It was too onerous. So
What's sad is that a remodel over $30,000 is not very much.
Nowadays, yeah. So what happened is we had that conversation. I remember that we had that conversation. We brought it back to a staff. We working on this. We received some direction from City Council. We talked to Planning Commission, and we came out with 2 new thresholds. First of all, we eliminate the remodeling part of it. So you could remodel as much as you want to, and it wouldn't trigger it. Or you could have do the basement, whatever, it wouldn't trigger it anymore. So we eliminate the remodeling part. The addition to the dwelling, the main dwelling, went up from 300 to 700 square feet. Okay, so if someone was gonna do 650, after that code amendment, we wouldn't require anything. And this is an interesting one. We decide that for accessory buildings greater than 500 square feet, that we're gonna change that. We're gonna also hide the threshold and go to 10% of the minimum lot size in the zone in which it's located. Pretty much, if we will trigger a conditional use permit, then it will trigger the require of getting street improvements. So for example, if they're in an R1A zone, it will be 800 square feet. If they were in an R110, 1,000 square feet, and so on and so on, okay? So, and we eliminate remodeling. This is what we have right now. This is the 2 main triggers obviously, a brand-new home will require, a new subdivision will require, but for existing dwellings, these two are the two main triggers of what it will require as street improvements. You want to add something, Martin?
I'll just add, I mean, the intent of this code is to get curb, gutter, and sidewalk in the
Yes.
community. That's why we have it. And so as we bring this back to you, and you look at this and say, this, even now with the new changes from 2016, if those thresholds maybe need to be changed, just remembering what the purpose is. And if we're okay with where we are as a city, that we just have certain areas in our city that are not going to be curb, gutter, and sidewalk unless the city funds it, then we probably don't need to have this ordinance. If that is something that's important to us, then we need to address if this is the right mechanism to do it. Because as we've had internal discussions, we're not so sure that this is the mechanism that's being successful to actually get these improvements in. And so we have to do a little bit more research to bring back to you to kind of give you some data that supports whether this is working or not. And we don't have that today. I mean, again, we want to go high level today. But we kind of want to get your thoughts and feelings on where you're at with having this as a mechanism to get curb, gutter, and sidewalk in the community.
So I'll speak up for, I'll go
The
first.
planning commissioners do just. jump
Planning
in.
commissioners are ready here.
Before you do that, can I
Okay.
ask a question?
Sure, go.
Because I think,
Go.
let me just ask a question quick. How much would a street improvement cost on a normal, let's say they were at 11%, and the building addition of more than, let's say it was 800, what would be the estimated cost for the street improvements in front of that resident's home?
Every one is unique.
Right.
Typical frontage, depending on how much your frontage is, whether it's 100 feet, 200 feet.
Let's say it's a
So I
standard
would say
let's say it's
between
100.
20 and 40 to $50,000. Typical, we have to prepare a bond typically for every one that comes in, and we estimate what those costs are. We see them anywhere from usually 20,000 up to 40, sometimes to 50,000. Sometimes you have to move a power pole. Sometimes you have extended asphalt that you have to, do 15-foot wide of asphalt to tie in, or you have to do 3.
Right.
But all those things play into it.
Okay, Eric, you can ask your question.
So
What's that?
Diana wants to go really bad here. I was on planning commission. I think we discussed this started at the end of 2014 and then kind of through 2015 before I came on the council. Talked about this and talked about the very first one, which was just insane, right? The amount of money that we were asking our residents to do. And even thinking about it this last week and more, just going over it, it's a lot of money we're asking our residents to do, right? That's a lot of money when they're looking. That's why I want us to look at what other cities are doing, because I know some are doing it on subdivides and new development. For me, now where I'm at, it's just it would never make sense to do it. But if that price was thrown at me, I'd walk off. I'd say no. So I think we do need to take a really hard, quick look at this and say, what are we really asking our citizens? So.
I'm kind of looking at it even as a different approach. Sorry, Diana.
That's okay.
Are we restricting a resident's ability to improve their home?
Yes.
Then we need to do everything we can to not have that happen, especially in a community where rural is good. We've got a lot of rural areas. And number two, we've got older homes. We have to make it possible and easy for residents to, add to their home or improve their home without taxing them $40,000. That seems ridiculous.
Hey, Diane, because I know you've added on to your house.
Yeah, and I had to pay for the improvements. I think it's very, very important here to understand that sidewalk, curb, and gutter are not pretty things. They are not things that we're just wanting done because it makes the neighborhood look good. Sidewalk, curb, and gutter, number one, we have a lot of water coming off the mountain, and there are directions that are engineered for that water to flow. We use the sidewalk, curb, and gutter to protect other citizens who live downhill.
Yeah.
So sidewalk, just curb and gutters move water. They also help the life of a street. I was on planning commission. It took me a long time to understand this because citizens come and they say, I can't afford to do this. But we also can't afford the liability of flooding the resident next door downhill. So I am very torn on this. I love when people increase the value of the neighborhood, and I'm not talking monetary. I'm talking the value of living in a neighborhood where it looks nice, but I also value a neighborhood where people downstream are not going to get flooded. So I don't know that there is a way that we can do this where there's an agreement that we can, extend the life of the cost of this in their utility bills. I don't know if we come up with a special district where if you're going to improve your home, we're going to do, I don't know.
It's the
Maybe
trigger,
that's the
right?
conversation.
What you're asking is, what is the trigger?
Okay, and I like the
that
after
allows-
16 trigger.
So I asked for this to be put on the agenda because I was here back in 2016 when we originally
Yes.
changed it. And I agree with you about the curb, gutter, and sidewalk. I just don't feel it's the responsibility of the resident when they're trying to add on a family room to the back of their house to put curb, gutter, and sidewalk. People do not have $40,000, $50,000 to do that. We might have to take ownership of that as a city and figure out a different way to fund it. But it will stop people from repairing their homes and fixing up their homes, or they'll do it and they won't come down and get a permit, and they'll do it without. I'd rather have them come to the city and do it safely and do it as it should be permitted. The trigger just doesn't make sense. They could be remodeling or just adding on, like I said, to the back of their home, or doing an accessory apartment in the back, or a garage or a workshop garage, and they'd have to do $40,000 to $50,000 of improvements. I don't think that's right. But I agree with you, it needs to be done. I just don't think this is the appropriate way to do it.
So, and I don't think we have to solve the problem tonight, but what you're saying.
But it affects them.
Well, any
And,
changes.
and again, tonight's just a discussion.
Any changes we make are going to take a lot longer than the boundary adjustment for
This
the
is-
Ruberts.
Well, but maybe they would hold off if that was the case.
My biggest thing, and I think we got to solve this, and tonight's probably not the night, but we've got to make it we got to make citizens able to improve their property without
A big, huge cost.
a huge, big cost, right? I mean,
So we have a couple ideas.
oh, do you? Good.
Yeah, well, not right now.
Okay.
We want to put it in a package together. We want to talk through the pros and cons of that, and then we can present that to you to say, okay, here's some items that we need to discuss, because there are ramifications for changing this, doing away with it, modifying it. And so we've talked a couple high-level things, but really the engineers need to sit down, and we can present something to you that says, here's some ideas, council, and then you'll have somewhere to go, as opposed to tonight just kind of throwing out a bunch of stuff. And
Do we have a pending trigger that this is the reason why we're talking about this? Is there somebody that's,
well, so
I know.
here,
They're here tonight.
I'm
know.
gonna share my thoughts here, and obviously the
I
Ruberts are here.
don't want to hold the whole process up.
Hostage.
So I-
Right.
We cannot move that fast on an issue like this, because whatever the council decides to do, I think, short of, I don't know, doing away with the ordinance, has to go back through planning commission and then come back to you. So there is this process for us to change this that will take a couple months. I don't know if the Ruberts have that sort of luxury of time. I think the boundary adjustment will be a quicker approach if they want to get where they need to go to get their property done. If they want to stay in Pleasant Grove and they want to allow the city council some time to address this, I mean, that will be their choice. That'll be up to them. But I
will say, just from that one to the other was well over a year.
Oh, we
Well,
did.
over
But why does it need to take that long? Can't we, I mean,
No, we just can't change the code
no.
one-off.
I understand, but these people want to stay in Pleasant Grove, and I want to help them stay here. They don't want to boundary adjust. But they also can't afford $40,000 to $50,000 in street improvements. So if we're heading in that direction, I want to try and help them. That doesn't mean we can approve this tomorrow, because it still needs to go through the process. But I also don't want it to take 6 months.
Well, we can move as quickly as we can move, and maybe this is a side discussion with the Ruberts on what their options are going to be. But this, like I said, the quicker thing for them to get built would be to boundary adjust into Cedar Hills and go through that than it will be for us to address this. I don't think it will take us a year, but this will take us, a couple months at least. Because we have to have a discussion, we need to get direction, then we have to craft it, then we need to send it through the planning commission, and then it comes back to you. Public hearings are, it's a public hearing and all that stuff. So we have notice and public hearing, and it's just gonna take time. And so if we're trying to accommodate the Ruberts because we want them to stay here, I don't know a way to do that, because this is what our ordinance says today.
And to be fair to all the citizens in Pleasant Grove that have a house, this affects a lot of people. I don't want to just have one family in mind when we think about this.
That's true.
As Pleasant Grove gets, the aged part of Pleasant Grove starts getting renovated and people are flipping, we have a lot of streets that don't have curb and gutter.
But what's happening is we're punishing people for improving, and those who aren't and just staying there, they don't have to do anything. But so we're punishing people for improving their property. That's wrong. So I'm fine with going through the process, and maybe it's a give and take, and we can. Don't want to do this just for one family.
Right.
I didn't necessarily agree with this back then either. I mean, I just don't think it makes sense. But I also don't want it to take 6 months, because if they decide they can hold off and we don't know what the outcome's going to be. We could get the information and decide, so I guess that's up to them. But for me, this was what triggered it again, because they're building a building in the back of their home and asking to improve $40,000, $50,000. So this is what initiated it for me, but I would like to go through the process and just see what happens. And I want to be fair, like you're saying, to everyone and go through the process with it. And hopefully if they can wait, but I'd like to head that, would like to head that direction.
Yeah. I mean, the hard part is there are people that have paid it. They have followed the ordinance, they
I know, but that's like with any ordinance. There's people that were affected by it and then it got changed, so.
Understood.
We
I'm
can't
just
go
saying we
in
have
the
to keep that in
past.
mind as we proceed. And again, as we create the list of kind of the pros and cons or the options, we'll address all that. I'll take a minute with the Ruberts here after our meeting and see what we can do as far as what we think the timing's going to be to amend this as opposed to following through with the boundary.
So what would the next step be if we decided just to have the discussion, or?
The next step is, I'd like to have it on our 18th agenda, that we can have the list of kind of the pros and cons in front of you for discussion. And then you can give direction if you want to rewrite the ordinance, then you give us the direction that you want in that ordinance, then Daniel will rewrite it, and then we'll run it through Planning Commission and bring it back to you. So that would be the process.
So that's going to probably run more than 60 days.
Yeah.
Probably going to be more like 90 days of really pushing
It
it,
could,
so,
yeah.
okay?
And we have to be fair to the process, and that's what it
Yeah.
is, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh. Okay, is that, I think we've given direction here, and we'll proceed that way. We'll now move to our other items. We didn't, is our final construction numbers on our public safety building. Director.
I have a sheet that I've handed out to you. It says our PSB cost summary from February 2020. So as Denise is the one that has managed the real dollars in regards to this budget, I was the one that was kind of managing the overarching budget with the numbers that we had. But these are the actual numbers as far as actual revenues received and actual expenses. So I want to explain kind of what this all means, and if you want some more detail, I'll grab my computer. But on the revenue side, the largest contribution toward, yeah.
Can you put this up? Because I had someone message earlier about the dispatch numbers when you were going over them. It's just helpful because those at home can also see. That's okay. It's good for them to see too.
I keep
Thank
forgetting
you.
that we have people online that are. Okay, so on the revenue side, the largest revenue were the bond proceeds from the general obligation bond voted on by our residents to help fund this building. The second largest contribution was donations. If you want to know who donated, we have a little wall out here that shows those, but I would like to recognize three particular families. So the Sterling family, the Cook family, and the Fugel family are a very large majority of the almost $2 million in donations we received. But for that $2 million, I don't know if this project happens.
No, it doesn't.
I don't think it happens because we wouldn't have got what we needed. So that revenue was really critical to the completion of this building. And we're grateful as a city for that contribution. As we put all the funding together for this, I'm going to kind of jump around here. The bottom is we had a piece of property over on the corner of 1300 West and Pleasant Grove Boulevard that the city bought years ago with the intent of putting maybe a satellite fire station there. The piece of property really wasn't that big, probably could not accommodate that, but nonetheless, we owned it. And so we turned around and sold it just recently. We knew we were going to sell it, so we accounted for it in the budget, and then we actually received the check, I want to say about 3 or 4 months ago, where we closed on that property.
It was a good corner.
Oh, it was. Nice little corner, and hopefully one day there's going to be a nice little retail establishment of some sort on that corner.
Steakhouse.
So that was
Burning something.
That was $500,000 that was initially bought mostly with impact fees, and part of it was just general capital expense, but all that money rolled back into the building. Why we held the bond proceeds for about a year and a half as we drew them down. Well, why we held them, we were able to collect interest. So we collected $337,000 of interest, all which went back into the project. At one point, we were collecting a police and fire impact fee, so we had $847,000 of that. We don't collect that fee anymore because once we did a GO bond, legally, that means the people that are using it over the next 20 years are paying for it because these payments, the bond is a 20-year bond. In our general fund, we have a certain threshold that we try to maintain, which is $2.3 million. We had a little bit more than that $2.3 million in there, and so we took some of that excess and transferred it back into this project. And then we also had what we call just our capital contributions, which is each year our revenue over expenditure in our operations, we turn around and use as one-time money. And over the last 3 years, I think we've taken a portion of that and have put it back into the building. At one point, and I'm going to get to this on the expense side, at one point we had things pretty much settled. The council came back and said, you know, we want a restroom attached to that for the park. We want a west access road that initially was talked about but stripped out of the budget, and as the council looked at the project, said they wanted that back in, and then the security gate around there. So those were three items that the council gave us direction that said, if we need to take this out of our general fund reserves, we're okay with that. But when it all boiled down to it, we didn't have to take it out of the general fund reserves. We were able to handle it in our capital contributions on a yearly basis. So that was a good thing, that we didn't have to jump into the reserves further than what we'd already anticipated we were going to take out. So on the expense side, as we break up these expenses, it was interesting as we were going through this process and we were trying to figure out what the cost per square foot is. There was a construction cost that was a cost per square foot, and then there's what I just call the all-in, and that is all the fees, just everything that's associated with this. That's really our per square foot cost. When we initially were going through this process, we hired a consultant, Mocha Systems, that did an analysis, and their estimate was that our cost per square foot was going to be $303 a foot. We came in at $283 a foot, and a lot of that is there were certain things, we gave up some square footage, but as this building was designed, our architect was really good at saying, we're going to use this material instead of this material. It will save you some money, but the look is going to be roughly the same. And so we were able to, pull some of that cost out in regards to this building. So when you look on the expense side, The big number there is the construction costs, which we would refer to in this process as the sticks and bricks, and that was right around $11 million. And so that's really the construction part of the building. So we had architects' fees, we had audio-visual, things that were happening that we needed to do in regards to the building. We have a line item in here that says major change orders / site improvements. So this was a number that was not part of the original construction cost, and these were the things that the council requested, or things that pertain more to the site and not necessarily to the building.
Did you mention that during this time, the cost of construction went up 8%?
Well, so I don't know what the cost went up from when MoCA gave us their estimate and from when we actually built the building.
Yes.
MoCA had a snapshot in time, but they also put an escalator in there knowing that the construction wouldn't happen for 2 years after the bond. But there was some time. MoCA's numbers were pretty good.
Yeah.
I think our architect, our construction group, the chiefs and those that were involved, we were able to strip some costs out of here to actually get that price down. The reason we did that is because we had to do that.
Right.
We had this limited amount of money, and so there was decisions made to say, okay, it's called value engineering. They give you a list of things and they say, can you do without this? Can you do without this? This will save you $200,000.
But in that time period, while we're building,
Yeah.
the cost of materials
Oh, yeah.
went
We
up.
actually, I'm so glad we got it done when we did, because things were already escalating at a decent level.
Yes.
And it got pretty crazy after we were done. I mean,
I want to say
talking,
it was 8%, and that was construction.
so, I mean, Big D could tell us what that is, but
Yeah.
talking with Orem, they're doing their,
Even more monumental.
well, we just,
When you
I
consider
ju-
that
I
the
just want to
cost of
say, I
goods
think it
went
was
up.
managed pretty good, the
Yes.
cost. I mean, the council was good to say, you know, this is what we want, this is where we need to get. And really, the architect and Big D Construction, our general contractor, were fantastic at saying, here's some things where you can save some money. So we had a demolition cost, that was the old rec center and the old fire station. We had FF&E, which is our furniture, fixtures, and equipment that went in the building. General conditions was what we paid to the contractor for their services. We had some insurance. We have rent, so, I mean, we had to rent facilities while our community development and fire departments were displaced, so we had a cost there. I mean, I don't know, maybe, in some ways, we could probably pull that cost out as far as the actual square foot cost of our building. Yeah. yeah.
Insurance? No, wait, which one?
The rent that we're
rent.
paying, I mean, really, that doesn't really count towards the,
That's not sticks and
it counts a little bit as the all-in cost, but not necessarily the actual building itself. And then site improvements and some changes to utilities that we had. So based on our revenues and our expenses, right now we have just under $20,000 left in that account. Our intention is whatever's left is going to turn around and roll into our remodel, which is probably 65, 70% done. Community development has moved in. The administrative offices are pretty much done. But now phase 2 is current city hall. They're going to do a carpet and a repaint and a little bit of remodeling in there. That's going to be what we're talking to our employees, and the admin side is an exercise in patience, because we're going to do that in 2 phases. And it's just going to be a construction zone. So people are going to come in to want to do transaction with the city. For the most part of it, we're going to funnel them into Kathy's new office, and we're going to get people handled there. But really, our employees are going to be displaced. So Scott and Cindy and Christian and Mike, who kind of sit up front, we're going to move them over into the new administrative space. They're going to occupy that for 2 or 3 weeks. The remodel's going to get done. We're going to move them back into that space, and then we'll take me and Tina and Kyler and Denise, and we'll move into that space. And that will become our permanent home, but then we'll come back and do the carpet and the repainting on the back side of City Hall.
Cool.
So if we were not in there and it was just kind of this open space, it would probably take them 2 weeks. But because we're doing this little juggle thing, it's going to take a little bit longer than that. But that would be the intent of the money that is left over, and this would be to move it to that remodel. The remodel, we have a decent-sized budget for that. There might be opportunity to come back and say, there's a couple things that we need to do different over there. It might cost us a little bit more money. We'll bring that back to you when we get to that point. So far, we've been able to stay on budget with what's happening over there. Any questions?
Is that insurance number, is that just a construction insurance?
Yeah, it's builders, so, you know, the building starts getting built, it's halfway done, and somebody comes and sets it on fire.
Okay.
I mean, that's the insurance that,
Wanna make sure.
in essence, takes care of you, that if something happens during the construction, that you can be insured.
Anything else, council?
Looks good. It's been a long process.
Thank you, Scott.
6
I
years.
feel like 6
Oh, it wasn't
years.
that bad.
Only 6 years of,
Maybe 7, I think 1993 is when, or sorry, 2013 is when
Yeah, 13.
we started all that.
Wow, yeah, remember that fire station moment? No.
Well, sorry, Denise gets, she has to go through every bill and make sure it's accounted for in these categories, and that's a job.
our next, Scott, do you have anything for us on our outline for our next meeting on the February the 18th?
Real quick.
You have that in your packet, a draft of our,
The Lions Club wants to come and do a presentation, so they're gonna come in our work session.
Oh, good.
We were gonna have Kim come and do our victim advocate update, but she's still here?
She is.
She'll be on a beach somewhere, so we're not gonna have her come back on the 18th.
Yes, we will.
We'll schedule her in March. No, we don't want that to happen. And then we have, Todd's been working with the drill team. They just completed state. He would like them to be awarded something, so we're going to work on whether they come during the work session or the city council meeting. We'll be throwing on the discussion item regarding our street improvement ordinance, so we'll have that likely in work session. If that kicks into council meeting, we'll do that. And just so you have it on your radar, in March, so March 3rd is Super Tuesday, and state of Utah is part of that. So we will not be holding a council meeting that night. So the 17th, we'll be planning on holding a council meeting. There is a chance we might need to meet on the 5th Tuesday in March, which would be the 31st. The reason being is because the next week is spring break, and we generally don't hold a council meeting during spring break due to a lot of people being gone. So we would have one meeting in March and one meeting in April. We're okay with that if that works out timing-wise, but if for some reason usually it's a planning front or something, some approvals, or we need to award a bid, then we might have a meeting on the 31st. So if you can just pencil in the 31st as a maybe, and we won't have the meeting if we don't have to, but if something triggers, then we'll do that. So that's it for
okay?
2 weeks.
All right, we got that down. Let's start over here with Sherry. Anything for the library?
Just thought I'd tell you about a couple events we have coming up. We have our classic movie club, Classic Cinema Club, on February 13th. So if you need a pre-Valentine's date, it's Roman holiday this time. And you probably don't know, but Kelly Closer, who is one of our full-time librarians, has a master's in film. And so she talks at the beginning, answers questions. It makes it a lot more interesting to know what to watch for. And so she does those. We also have on February 20th, a Best Books of 2019. So if you want to know what to read next, that's fun. And then on the 29th, we have The Enchanted Forest of Dr. Seuss. And so that is for the kids ages 5 to 12. It's a Saturday. We'll have a couple sessions because we expect to get a lot of kids there. So just, there you go.
Tyler?
It is our Employee Appreciation Week at Pleasant Grove Rec Center, so we're just having goodies in our back room for all of our employees every day, and then we finish on Saturday with a dinner that I hope most of you guys all got an invitation. It's 7 to 8:30 on Saturday. I do know there is a BYU game that night, Mayor, and I apologize. You have to make a
We
choice.
also got a wedding that night, too.
And there's a wedding for Todd, yeah,
Todd,
so
so.
it was a bad.
And Logan's Wrestling and JV State.
And Logan's Wrestling.
Sorry.
So I'll tell them how much you guys love them. So,
But we really appreciate all you do.
Yeah.
Promise.
We'll send that along to them. So sorry I chose a bad night for that for you guys, but yeah. So that's happening all week, and
Hey,
the rec
what-
centers. Oh, go ahead.
The, tell me again, Saturday, what time?
7 o'clock.
7 to 8:30.
Diana can represent.
What?
Can you represent us, maybe? Diana and Eric, maybe, and Brent, the judge? Okay, he won't be here.
And we will be eating wallabies. So
Ooh.
Sounds like a good
if
night.
that can entice you from anything, but. And the rec center's just really busy right now. The parking was crazy this morning. We were all the way up and down Locust, and it was just, so if you hear anything about parking,
We hear about that, so people.
it's a good problem to have because a lot of people are using the facility, so.
One more month.
Yeah.
So Chief Thomas?
This is a busy month for us, too. We've got a lot of our big kind of training that's going on. But we also have some special visitors coming over from a small construction company called Fugels to learn first aid, and we're going to add a couple of things to that this year that I think will really be beneficial, including, stop the bleed and some hands-on and hands-only CPR and stuff. So we ended up having to book them over 2 or 3 days in order to get all the employees to rotate through there. But it's going to be fun. We're going to have them come over to the station this time instead of going and visiting them. So it should be fun.
Chief Roberts?
We conducted some interviews last week for our open position. We've had a position open for about 6 months, and so we're in dire straits to fill that. And so we had a couple of good people to look at, and we're in the process of backgrounds right now, just really busy. And I've been asked to have a group of guys that I have teach active shooter to all the different departments in the city. So we'll start with Tyler's group first and get that taken care of.
Thank you.
And we'll move through that and get it done. That's about all I have.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Tyler? Tyler, anything?
Just as an update, the communities that care positions closed, so we will be reaching out to those candidates soon, so you're aware. And then also February 12th, make sure that you have that marked. That's the employee appreciation lunch at noon. And we have, you all got to review some of those applications for those awards. There were 70 more applications that we received for other awards. So I think it'll be a great afternoon to really be able to recognize the
And
employees.
where's that going to be at?
That's going to be at the rec center.
We're shutting the rec center down for a little while.
Well, we're,
Yeah,
shut,
and-
we're,
and-
we're shutting the whole city down. I mean, literally, we're closing buildings, and we want to make sure every employee can be there, where that's important to us. So City Hall will be closed, dispatch will keep going. If the fire and police get called out, they'll do their thing. But really, our goal is to get everybody in that room that works for the city.
Denise, do you have anything else for us?
We did receive the Distinguished Budget Award last week. I think we got the letter about, so that's for our 2020 budget. So that's good news.
I thought you usually bring that to council and read it and stuff.
I'm sure Scott will. Next time we can.
She doesn't like to do that.
I don't care.
But we'll,
You need to be recognized for that.
well, and I haven't seen the letter yet. Have they sent us the letter?
She's probably hiding it.
I don't think,
Denise-
They usually email me a letter
Yeah.
that says that, and
Okay.
I don't think I've
We'll plan on
received
that for
yet.
next
They probably
time.
told her we got it, but.
yeah, they tell
But
me.
when we get the letter, we'll read it, come read it to
Okay,
you.
so-
We do that.
Yep, and then just working on budget stuff, so.
And that only helps, does that help with our bond rating?
No, this is a kind of a budget presentation, but it's reviewed by finance officers throughout the country. And there's certain thresholds and standards you have to meet to get the award. I mean, I don't know how many cities in Utah get it, 20 or something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, there's not many cities that get it, so, and this
Awesome.
is the work that Denise and
I got Christian to help me this
Christian
year.
has been helping out, because it's more than just putting numbers. It tells a story. You read through that document, it tells you what we're doing.
That's nice.
That's really nice. Okay, thank you, Denise. Scott, do you have anything else?
Yeah, just a reminder, Friday for our budget and planning meeting. We'll be at the fire station in the training room. We'll be starting at 8:30. We will have some continental breakfast. We'll also be providing lunch. I think on my agenda that I emailed out to you, we're looking at 3 o'clock to end. That could go a little longer or go a little shorter, kind of depending on how the conversation goes, but we have some good things to talk about, so we're looking forward to it.
Okay, thank
That's
you. Tina?
Working on the indigent defense grant again, it's time to do that. We have a little bit of a hiccup with that because I don't think Lyndon's gonna do it this year. Their court administrator or head court clerk is graduating in May, and he's the one who's been doing all the statistics, and so I'm trying to figure out what our role's gonna be now without them. And then just getting Josh settled, there's a few bumps in the road and just getting things put together.
Well done.
Marty?
Yeah, plenty of things going on. Number of bids will be coming out hopefully in the next month and awarded in March. Moving forward on our summer construction season here shortly. We do have, I did send out a little email, we're trying to determine when the city cleanup days would be.
Yeah.
So just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware, we're looking at the 24th of April through the 2nd of May.
I like those dates.
It's kind of the week before Mother's Day and right at the end of April.
Mhm.
It's decent weather, so that seems to work. So that'll be a Friday through a Saturday, including a Sunday, like we typically do. And then we also have our annual holiday party for Public Works. Hopefully you received an invitation from Maria. And if you haven't, let me know, and we'll get you the invitation next week as well.
Remind me what day next week?
It's on the 12th.
The 12th.
It's the same day as the city, but it's in the evening.
Okay.
We'll send you that.
You didn't get that? Oh, yeah.
I don't get anything, so I have no idea.
Apparently Diana's the one
Yeah, I got the hard copy in the mail.
Oh,
Or email.
it was an
Okay.
invite.
Well, there was a hard copy from Tyler, so maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
This-
We do have more storms coming?
Hey, they're gonna miss us like this last one did, okay? So anyway,
No kidding, 8 inches.
Councilmember Jensen, you got your list tonight?
I do. I do just have a few, though. Remember, Miss PG did a wonderful job. Last Kindness Month is on its way, going, and she's putting out some good stuff. Kyler took the employee appreciation, so we won't announce that. And then, remember this Thursday at 11:45, the Chamber Awards, Pleasant Grove. Mayor's giving his Business of the Year award, which I won't tell you until he presents it.
Top secret.
And then we'll be presenting a bunch more Business Persons of the Year award and stuff like that. So that's this Thursday at 11:45 at Stonegate. That's it.
Councilmember.
First, just really quick, really good business down in the Grove Tower number 2. It's right next to Tribe House. It's Purify Wellness Center. It's a great place. Just, I'm gonna get you all down there and I can show you around. Great snow removal. That big storm, it was just amazing to not have one skiff. I did have a
We
wind.
did have a skiff.
We had a skiff. It blew to my house from the mayor's house. Anyway,
Okay.
that's it.
All right, Brent, do you have anything for us tonight? No. Sid?
So this is just on a personal note, but my son, who's serving in Thailand, got a new companion last week. And it was a companion, he was from Pleasant Grove, lives half a mile down the street from us. He did not know him.
Wow.
So out of 40,000 missionaries in 399 missions, 8,000 miles away in Thailand, we have 2 Pleasant Grove elders serving together as of this
They
week.
didn't know each other.
They didn't know each other. So I thought that was pretty
From
cool.
my hood, isn't he?
Yeah, he lives right off Center Street. And
Lisa?
so they've been catching up on Strawberry Days, Vikings, who they know. So that just like amazes me. So anyway, I thought that was like really cool. So I wanted to share. Pleasant Grovians in Thailand. So.
Wait, I do have one more thing to add. My
passed you.
daughter returned from her mission on Friday, and guess where she wanted to go? We left the airport and went to
Taco Amigo.
Taco Amigo.
There's something in the water there or something.
I wouldn't
there,
expect
so.
anything else.
Kathy, do you have anything for us tonight? Oh. Listen up.
Just excited to move into my new office.
So that concludes everything we have tonight. I appreciate the council for their time here. Todd left us early to go to his boys' basketball game, and some of us will show up there later. Pleasant Grove's ahead?
Yes.
Really? So that's good, and if no other things there, I'd ask for a motion this evening.
Really quick, Mayor, we had drill competed for state, basketball playing right now, but we've got wrestling JV state this weekend, and then wrestling at UVU. We just took first in the 6A sectionals, divisionals. So next, on February 12th at UVU, we'll be competing for state, for wrestling. So if you can make it, that would be, I mean, just anyone who can go, it's going to be awesome. So just want to make sure everyone knew about that. And I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have motion second. All in favor, say aye.